Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Clubsport in multiplayer in Asphalt 9. I got my car at 3 stars in the Grand Prix, and I've upgraded it with all upgrades and import parts applied I could at this stage. Now, I did manage to get actually the first spot in the Grand Prix by just 5 points. I was originally going to try to win the car with just 2 stars, but I realized it would have been pretty close and I didn't want to risk it, so I went up to 3 stars. Also, we're getting pretty close to 30,000 subscribers. At that point, I will upload a special Q&A that I have done with my girlfriend, so be sure to subscribe if you would like to see that sooner. 3-starring this car was also very useful for the Porsche Carrera GT special event, where it would give me more chances to get blueprints for that car. I'm currently at like 36 out of 45 for it. I'm going to keep you updated on that. Hopefully I'll be able to win the Carrera, but we'll see. It's probably going to be pretty close. Given that I don't have the regular Cayman at Golden Max, I do not have the Epic import parts for it, but we'll see what we can do there. When that validation period at the end of the Grand Prix finished and I actually got my hands on this car, there were a bunch of people who got this car in drops through the packs who did not come in the top 5 or top 3 or whatever. Now, we knew there was going to be a chance for those, but it seemed like an extremely high chance. Like, most of the people who got to the final rounds ended up getting the car. At least that's what I was seeing. Let me know, guys, down in the comments, if you played the Grand Prix and did not get a guaranteed car key drop. Did you get it in those packs? Because it sure seemed like a lot of people did. This makes me slightly feel like I wasted my tokens on this car, given that I'm not going to get it to a point where it would do very well against the other top C-Class cars. That would cost a lot of tokens. I already spent 9,000 or so on it. But hey, at least I was able to get some more Carrera GT blueprints about it, and there's no sense dwelling on what already happened because you can't change it. That's kind of a good motto for life, too. In that race, our main competition was one Acura NSX, and in this race, our competition is heightened a bit more with 2 Acura NSXs and 2 Pininfarinas. One thing I really like about the season, and I really still hope they continue to do this in all seasons, is the 10-second ghosting at the beginning. I know I've said this a lot in videos, but it is so useful for making seasons less aggravating because of not being pushed around at the very beginning, especially in 8-player races. Now, in 4-player races, ghosting isn't as useful because you're not as squished together, but with 8 players, yes, especially if you're in rush season. So one trait about this car that you will notice throughout the video that isn't particularly great is that its acceleration, at least at 3 stars and below, is not all that great. You've seen probably at the beginning of the races that, for the most part, everybody else starts getting a little bit ahead. Now, my car is decently fast. It goes just over 200 miles per hour with nitro, around 206, I believe, but it's still not crazy fast, and that's why I'm not really able to catch up to this Acura here. He's going a few miles per hour faster than me, and so although I am right behind him for most of the race, I'm not able to catch up and pass him, and thus we finished this race in 2nd position, although it did get pretty close there right at the end. We did, however, beat another 4-star Acura as well as 2 3-star Pininfarinas and a couple of other various cars. Now we have one on the Caribbean, which, being a twisty track, is one that cars like the E10s, Pininfarina, and Viper, all of which are in this race, should be able to do pretty well on. And this was a pretty close one for a while, so I go out the long way here, which is what I usually do. A Pininfarina, because of his really good drifting, is able to make it into the shorter way, and we catch up to him right here. Thankfully, he doesn't knock us down or 360 us or something. In rush season, I'm always so worried about that. But for the most part, when I was driving this car, it was pretty good, and I was looking forward to a close battle with this Pininfarina here up till the end. Unfortunately, my 360 barely touched him upon landing, knocking him down. That was completely unintentional, but it did allow us to get a bit ahead for the rest of the race. And this track is not one that is especially great for this car, as you can see. It does not have especially good drifting. I mean, it's okay. Some cars are better. Basically, at this stars, this car is rather mediocre. There doesn't really feel to be anything especially terrible about it. I mean, the nitro efficiency is okay. Really, I'd say the acceleration is the worst part at this point, but it's not particularly great in any area either. Now, when this car is maxed, it probably will end up being the 3rd best C-Class car behind the Vents Lancer and the Hacera, possibly beating them on some tracks like the Caribbean, but I'm not so sure about that. We'll have to see it with some people's testing who have actually managed to get the car 5 stars. And I know there have been some people who are able to gold max this car, so we'll have to see what happens in some upcoming C-Class events. That Pininfarina back there was 4-starred, as is the Acura that we are facing in this race. Again here, everybody starts getting ahead of us in the beginning. Even this DS E-Tense, who's drifting around a whole bunch, isn't really managing to get much ahead. But then I drift around the corner, do my shockwave. If you do it right, when you land there, you can keep a good bit of speed when you hit at the bottom. I've noticed that if you land more toward the sides, you will lose more speed than if you just try to land in the middle. Just something based on experience. So that's what I usually try to do, especially if I'm in very high top speed cars. Aim for the middle there, like when I'm driving the Jesco in the Legendary Masters season. This track, or one very close to it, is one of the ones that is there, and that's always what I try to do. And I can usually keep 250 or so miles per hour, at least upon landing. Now here I'm catching very close up to this Acura here. I'm trying not to get knocked down. Somehow I go over him and knock him down. It was really weird. I did not even think I had touched him. Thankfully, while this car's drifting is not the most amazing, it is slow enough to be able to take this turn without too much of a problem. I know some cars that have really good drifting but are fast, such as the Bugatti Chiron, can tend to get stuck on the outer wall there. So if you are in one of those really fast cars, it is best to not go off the ramp directly before that turn with nitro. So just go off without nitro at all, then just drift around it, and you'll have a much better chance of not hitting the outside wall, thereby not allowing you to lose as much speed, and so you can just shockwave out of it without too much of a problem. We managed to beat that Acura NSX by a good bit, and in this race we're facing a few Viper ACRs as well as our main competition, which are 2 cars, a Maserati Alfieri and a Pininfarina H2. I managed to land right between those 2 Vipers, so I didn't knock them down, and now I've just got this Pininfarina and Alfieri to chase down. Now they both are slightly faster than me, but I knew that the Alfieri's handling was not especially amazing, so I thought he'd probably be the easiest one to overtake. The Alfieri, though, actually manages to catch up to this Pininfarina up here and knock him down. Not entirely sure if that was intentional or not, but then I saved my nitro so that I could go up this ramp with it, allowing me to pass him, go up this ramp. He actually went down to the left down below, and somehow it was timed just right that I landed on top of him. Again, completely unintentional, and thus we are now into first again. I had pretty good luck with this car in multiplayer overall. Nothing weird happened to it. One good thing I can say about it is that it is pretty stable. I never had any issues with it randomly flipping on the top after a perfect barrel roll like what happened to me in the Jesco earlier this morning. Yeah. And we begin to round the final turn to take the victory. So the other Grand Prix event that is going to come in this update is for the other Porsche race car, the 911 GT2 RS Clubsport, which also came in this update. It's very close to the top of Class A, so I'm thinking that although this 718 Cayman Clubsport is pretty good, that one will likely be a more worthwhile one to go for overall. And now it is time for my general review of this car. When maxed, it is definitely one of the top C-Class cars, possibly top 3, like I said earlier, but at lower stars, it isn't really the most amazing multiplayer car. Actually, it's rather average. If you have it at just 1 star, it's probably really not going to do you much good at all, well, pretty much anywhere. You could try it in multiplayer, but if you've got it 2, 3, 4 stars, you can probably test it out. It might do you decently, as you can see in this video. But I think once you hit Gold League, it's probably not going to do so great anymore, unless you max it, in which case it'll probably still do quite nicely. At this rank, poor acceleration, pretty good nitro efficiency, okay handling and drifting, and decent speed. I've got a lot of other good multiplayer videos planned to come out in the near future, including the other top S-Class cars in the Legendary Masters season, and a very high-end A-Class car that I haven't actually made a maxed video about yet, so stay tuned for that. And here we go around this 360-degree turn in just the opposite direction as we did in the previous race. And actually looking at the map, it might not be quite 360 degrees, more like 300 or something like that. I don't know. I'm doing a math major, so that's one of the things that pops into my head occasionally. So rounding the final bend without anybody else on the map, we come in first place in our first place decal. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And that 30K Q&A, which should be coming pretty soon. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.